Hey, Cowboys Nation, this is Cowboys Wire News, your home for breaking news, smart analysis, rumors, and film room insights. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a snap. Let's talk America's team. The news hit like a thunderclap across the league. And even though everyone is calling it confirmed, the way this move feels is still pure rumor energy. The kind that shakes fan bases and dominates conversations for hours. The idea of the Cowboys actually closing a trade with the Browns for Myles Garrett sounds like something that lived in comment sections and late-night podcasts, not something you wake up to and start processing as reality. Yet here we are, trying to understand what this really means. Because this is not just another defensive lineman changing jerseys, this is a statement move, a philosophical shift, and maybe even a gamble that tells us exactly how Dallas sees its championship window. Garrett is not a quiet superstar, he is a disruptive force. A defender who bends game plans before the ball is even snapped. When a player like that enters a new locker room, everything changes. From the way coaches design pressure packages to the confidence level of the secondary behind him. Even if the word confirmed is floating around, the feeling is still speculative, because fans are asking what Dallas really gave up. How Cleveland truly feels about letting go of a face of the franchise. And whether this is the final piece or just the loudest move yet in a much bigger puzzle. From the Cowboys' perspective, this rumor turning into reality feels like the kind of aggressive swing that defines an era. For years, Dallas has been close enough to taste the title run, but far enough to hear critics questioning toughness, edge, and the ability to dominate when it matters most. Bringing in Myles Garrett is not subtle, it is a declaration that finesse alone is not enough anymore. Garrett represents fear. And defenses that create fear change games without needing perfect execution. Quarterbacks rush throws, offensive coordinators abandon long-developing concepts, and suddenly the entire rhythm of an offense is altered. That is why this move feels so massive even before we analyze scheme fits or cap implications. It is about identity. Dallas is telling the league that it wants to win ugly if necessary. That it wants to control games through violence at the line of scrimmage, even as a rumor. Fans can already picture Garrett lining up opposite existing pass rushers, creating mismatches that no protection can truly solve. The speculation is not whether he will produce, but how quickly this defense can transform from dangerous to terrifying. On the other side, the Browns' involvement adds another layer of intrigue. That keeps this story firmly in speculation territory, even with confirmation floating in the air. Cleveland does not simply move on from a player like Myles Garrett without a deep internal debate. And that debate is what fans are now trying to imagine. Was this about a reset? A recognition that timelines no longer matched? Or a belief that spreading resources might serve them better long term? Garrett has been the emotional and competitive heartbeat of that defense. So the idea of trading him suggests something bigger is happening behind closed doors. Maybe it is a recalibration. Maybe it is a quiet admission that building around one dominant defender was not enough. Browns fans are left wondering what the return truly represents, whether it signals patience or urgency, and whether the front office is confident enough to sell a new vision, even with confirmation. This feels like a rumor because we are missing the emotional context, the internal conversations, and the long-term plan that justified such a bold move. What makes this situation even more fascinating is how perfectly it fits the Cowboys' reputation for headline-grabbing decisions. Dallas has always understood the power of narrative, and acquiring a player like Garrett feeds directly into that mythology. This is the kind of move that dominates sports talk shows, fuels endless debates, and forces rivals to react, even if you believe championships are won through balance and patience. There is no denying the psychological impact of adding a defender who can single-handedly wreck a game plan. Speculation now turns toward how defensive coordinator tendencies might evolve. How often Garrett will be moved around the formation, and whether his presence unlocks the full potential of everyone around him. Fans are already imagining scenarios where opposing offenses spend entire weeks preparing for Garrett, only to be punished elsewhere. That is the beauty of a move like this, because its value extends beyond sacks and pressures into fear and uncertainty. And that is something no stat sheet can fully capture. The locker room dynamics are another speculative angle that keeps this story alive beyond a simple transaction. Myles Garrett arrives with expectations, with leadership weight, and with a reputation that demands respect. How does that mesh with existing voices in Dallas? And how quickly does he become one of the pillars of the team's culture? Rumors thrive in this space because fans love to imagine the first team meeting, the first practice rep. The first time Garrett addresses his new teammates, will he be the quiet professional who leads by example, or the vocal presence who challenges everyone to raise their standard? Either way, his arrival shifts the balance, and those shifts are never fully predictable. This is where speculation becomes more interesting than confirmation, because the human element cannot be measured or announced in a press release. As this story continues to ripple through the league, it feels less like a completed chapter and more like the opening paragraph of something much bigger. The Cowboys acquiring Myles Garrett is not just about now, it is about what comes next, how other teams respond, and how expectations explode overnight. Fans will speculate about playoff matchups, about rival quarterbacks trying to survive behind shaky offensive lines, and about whether this move finally silences long-standing criticisms of Dallas. Even with confirmation, this trade lives in the realm of rumor because its true impact has not been seen, felt, or proven yet. Until that happens, every conversation, every debate, and every prediction will keep this story alive as one of the boldest and most fascinating moves the league has seen in a long time. When you flip the perspective back toward the Browns, the rumor energy only intensifies, because losing a cornerstone like Myles Garrett forces a franchise-wide reflection. Cleveland fans are trying to read between the lines, asking themselves whether this move signals confidence in the roster, or an admission that the current formula needed a dramatic change. Speculation swirls around how the locker room processes this departure, how leaders step up to fill the void, and whether younger players are being trusted to grow into roles that once belonged to a proven star. Even if the front office frames this as a strategic decision, the emotional weight cannot be ignored. Garrett was not just productive, he was symbolic, and trading symbolism always carries risk. This is why the story refuses to feel settled, because the consequences will echo for seasons, shaping narratives about trust, patience, and vision for Dallas. The expectations now feel almost unfairly high, which is another reason this trade lives comfortably in speculation. Adding a player of Garrett's caliber does not guarantee success, but it does eliminate excuses. Fans and analysts alike will watch every snap, every pressure, and every big moment through a magnifying glass. If the defense dominates, this move will be celebrated as genius. If the results fall short, critics will question the cost and the philosophy behind chasing star power. That tension is what keeps the rumor mill spinning, because outcomes are never guaranteed, especially in a league defined by parity and unpredictability. The Cowboys are embracing that risk, and in doing so, they are inviting scrutiny on a level few teams willingly accept. Another layer that fuels speculation is how this move reshapes the balance of power within the conference. Rivals now have to account for a Cowboys defense that looks fundamentally different on paper and in imagination. Offensive coordinators will spend sleepless nights sketching protections, double teams, and quick-release concepts designed specifically to survive Garrett's presence. Even teams that do not face Dallas directly feel the ripple effect, because blockbuster trades often trigger reactions, adjustments, and copycat behavior across the league. This is how rumors grow legs, because one confirmed move sparks 10 imagined ones, each tied to fear of being left behind. The narrative potential is also impossible to ignore, especially for a franchise like Dallas that lives under a constant spotlight. Myles Garrett becomes a symbol of ambition, of refusing to settle, and of chasing dominance rather than comfort. That symbolism feeds speculation about future moves, about whether this is the final piece or merely the loudest step in a larger plan. Fans will ask if the Cowboys are done, or if this trade opens the door for even more aggression. That uncertainty keeps the story alive, because confirmation answers only one question while creating many more. Meanwhile, Browns supporters are left navigating a complicated emotional landscape that blends hope with skepticism. Some will trust the process, believing that resources gained from this trade will fuel a more balanced and sustainable roster. Others will fear that letting go of a generational defender is a mistake that cannot be undone. That divide is fertile ground for rumor, debate, and endless hypothetical scenarios. What if the return blossoms into multiple stars? Or what if Garrett thrives in Dallas while Cleveland struggles to replicate his impact? These questions linger unanswered, and they ensure this story remains a living, breathing topic rather than a closed case. In the end, the trade between the Browns and the Cowboys for Myles Garrett exists in a strange space, where confirmation does not kill speculation, but actually amplifies it. The move is bold, emotional, and transformative, and those qualities guarantee that its meaning will be debated long before its results are fully understood. Fans, analysts, and players alike will continue to project hopes and fears onto this decision, turning it into a mirror for how they see their teams and the league itself, until the long-term consequences reveal themselves. This will remain one of those rare stories that feels like a rumor even when it is real, echoing through conversations and imaginations far beyond the initial announcement. The speculation also drifts toward how this move reshapes legacy conversations. Because when a player like Myles Garrett changes teams, narratives are rewritten almost instantly. In Dallas, every dominant performance will be framed as validation, as proof that the Cowboys finally understood what was missing all along. In Cleveland, every highlight will sting, reopening debates about patience, timing, and whether greatness should ever be traded away. This is how rumors survive long after confirmation. Because they live in emotion rather than paperwork, fans will constantly ask what this trade means for how Garrett will be remembered, whether as a Brown who gave everything before being moved, or as a Cowboy who helped define a new era. Those questions cannot be answered quickly. And until they are, the story stays alive. Even teammates become part of the speculation, as people wonder who benefits most from his presence, who sees fewer double teams, and who suddenly looks better, simply because Garrett demands so much attention. This kind of ripple effect is impossible to fully predict, and that uncertainty is exactly what keeps conversations going day after day. Before we roll on, subscribe to Cowboys Wire News, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Your support keeps the Dallas Cowboys updates coming. Tell us what you think in the comments. Another angle that keeps fueling the rumor machine is the idea of timing. Because this trade feels like it happened at a crossroads for both franchises. Dallas appears to be pushing its chips toward the center of the table, embracing urgency and acknowledging that windows do not stay open forever. Cleveland, meanwhile, looks like a team choosing a different path, one that might prioritize flexibility, youth, or balance over relying on one transcendent star. That contrast invites endless speculation about which philosophy ultimately wins in a league obsessed with results. Fans love to argue whether building around a defensive superstar is the safest route, or whether spreading value across multiple pieces creates more resilience. Myles Garrett becomes the symbol at the center of that philosophical debate. And as long as opinions differ, the rumor never truly dies. Every sack, every pressure, every quiet game will be interpreted through that lens, turning routine moments into evidence for or against the decision. Ultimately, what makes these additional chapters inevitable is that this trade touches something deeper than strategy or roster construction. It taps into belief, identity, and the stories fans tell themselves about their teams. Cowboys supporters want to believe this is the missing edge, the move that finally aligns talent with ambition. Browns fans want to believe that letting go of a star can still lead to a stronger future, built on smarter decisions. Those beliefs clash in comment sections, podcasts, and late-night debates, keeping the rumor alive even when the facts are settled. Myles Garrett standing in a Cowboys uniform will feel real, but the meaning of that image will remain contested, and as long as meaning is contested, speculation thrives. This is why this trade will not fade quietly into history, but will instead linger as a reference point, a what-if, and a measuring stick for years to come. As the speculation continues to spiral outward, one thing becomes clear: this signing has transformed the Cowboys into a living conversation. Rather than just a roster, every practice report, every sideline image, every offhand comment is now filtered through the lens of expectation. Campbell's name becomes shorthand for seriousness, for intent, for a refusal to drift aimlessly. The rumors suggest that inside the building, there is a quiet confidence taking root, not loud bravado, but a steady belief that preparation and experience matter. This tone resonates with fans who crave authenticity over hype, who want to believe that substance can still triumph in a league obsessed with spectacle. Whether that belief proves justified is a question suspended in time, but the narrative itself already feels powerful. For now, the Cowboys stand wrapped in possibility, their future debated with intensity and imagination, as Calais Campbell's shadow stretches across the conversation, reminding everyone that sometimes the biggest moves are the ones that change how a team is perceived before anything else happens. That's a wrap from Cowboys Wire News. For breaking Cowboys updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Tell us your take in the comments.